All right, one thing that I mentioned or is stated in the rubric is that color correction or white balance is a part of the rubric, and that you may need to color correct a clip. So when you change from a camcorder, the instrument we know how to white balance, and I've shown how to white balance, that's an expectation throughout your footage, is that once you've set white balance, that's great, but if you change cameras, especially if we change to a cell phone to record some video, in the case of our gimbal, this shot here, oftentimes what you'll find is that the white balance does not match. So this one does, because I've already created a color, well actually a color board in which we went through a color correction to make this look more normal. I'm going to turn this off, and what you'll see is by turning this on and off, I have a very blue color cast across this clip, and I've made some corrections to it, and now it looks more normal. It also matches the clips before and after. So I think consistency is a little bit more important than being perfectly white balanced. So in this case, I'm going to turn this off and play through here real quickly. So the warmness of that first shot is not matched here in this gimbal shot. And then again, it goes back to a warmer looking clip for the remainder of these 4 shots that I used for the example. So what I want to show here is how to get this corrected. I am going to go up here and delete that from my color board. And so with my playhead over top of this clip and the clip selected, I want to correct this bluish, this cooler color temperature clip and warm it up a little bit so it looks a little more natural. To do that, the second icon over here in the inspector window is this color triangle, and it will open the color inspector. Now, once you've opened the color inspector, there's 3 phases to change, or 3 aspects of the visible image that you can adjust. One is color, which we want to adjust. The other is saturation. That's how much color or how little color is in your shot. Basically, you can make a shot black and white or hypersaturated so the colors are really extreme. Or you can go to exposure, which is the lightness or darkness of the image. I don't recommend adjusting any one of these to extremes. Your clips will look ridiculous. So with color selected, we want to do one thing, and that's to adjust the color temperature. Now, inside of this window, you will have a global adjuster, which is your master, and you can also adjust this numerically. You also have your shadows, your midtones, and then your highlights. And what we are after is to try and pull down the quantity of blue, or to add in a certain amount of warmth, the reds and yellows, to where we make this clip look more natural. And so I'm going to start off with the highlights. This is the brightest parts of our image that we want to adjust. And so what I can do is I can drop the quantity of blues within this clip. I can also slide it left and right a little bit, and it'll change the amount of a specific color or the color range that I'm removing. And so if I slide to the right, it actually becomes cooler. If I sit somewhere in the middle of this blue spot, I can pull out more or less blue. So the further down you go, the more blue you're pulling out. If you were to go above the line, you'd actually be adding more blue. So you just got to kind of play around with a little bit. But in this case, I want to pull some of the blue out of this image. I'm going to sit around 20%. And then typically I like to slide left and right and see if there's anything that maybe I can just tune in a little bit more to that color range that I want to pull out. So I'm right now in the middle of blue, right around 20% reduction in blue. And by sliding left or right, I can kind of get the feel for that image. So, I mean, I think that looks pretty good, right around 20%. And what I want to do now is take a look at how close the rest of these colors are. So, still looking at the concrete, I think the concrete still looks a little bit cool. I'm going to jump to the midtones. I'm going to pull a little bit out there, and I think it's going to warm up just a little bit more. Yeah, so I think if I just take a little bit out of those midtones, concrete warms up just a little bit. And that really doesn't grab my attention when I change this camera angle. Maybe a little more. The bricks look a little bit cool still. A little more in the midtones. Whoops, grabbed the wrong one. Command Z. Come on, let me grab the midtones. All right, back to the midtones. I'm hitting the slider on the right side, grabbing the number and moving it up and down. So by actually dropping down that mid-tone a little bit as well, and then sliding it left and right using the degrees, I can actually warm up those bricks a little bit as far as color temperature goes as well. So now I really think this clip matches nicely. If I click back on this video inspector tab, I can see that I created a color adjustment across the top, and what you're able to do is to tab that on and off, or to check that on and off and see the color adjustment that was made. All right, a little bit of color correction, a little bit of playing around. If you have any questions or problems with regards to that, feel free to stop me, but I would expect you can get your project pretty much edited together, and then if we got to color correct, maybe I can help point you in the right direction if there's an issue you're having.